Now, recently, I did a video about Boots versus Crawford. I did actually a couple videos. And I would just like to know why. Why and how is this happening? Why and how is this happening? They gave Ennis the IBF strap, and Crawford, he now holds the WBA, WBC, WBO, right? Boots has the IBF. You got all these people on social media talking about what has Boots done, what has Boots, accomplished, but you got to ask yourself, like, everybody else that Crawford has fought, what have they done besides Earl Spence? Earl Spence had 3 belts, right? So now we're in the position where it's like, now all of a sudden that Crawford became undisputed at 147. Now he feels as though he don't have to prove himself anymore. And he's all about money. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't duck his mandatories. Like, make it make sense to the boxing fans. Like, the boxing fans, and then you got a lot of boxing fans that's Crawford fans that'll sit there and say that Boots doesn't deserve a shot, but they were okay with him fighting other people besides Ennis. If Crawford were to fight anybody in the welterweight rankings, whether it's the WBO, WBC, IBF, or the WBO, if he were to fight anybody else besides Ennis, they would be okay with that. It's like, come on, man. Like, what? You have an opportunity to become 3 times undisputed, but the money ain't right. What's up with this money situation? The money this, money that. Come on, man. Like, y'all making boxing look bad. Y'all making boxing look bad. Is this boxing? I ask myself this question. Is this boxing? Or is it, yeah, I understand it's a business. I understand 1,000 it's a business. But you got a guy that holds, he holds a title in your division where you still hold 3 titles at. You don't want to let them go, but you don't want to fight the next champion that's in your division to become 3 times undisputed. Oh, man. I wish this could make sense to me. I usually don't make videos like this, but this shit is starting to piss me off. Like I'm to the point where it's like, come on, man. Come on, man. All these boxing fans out here that want to see this fight between Ennis and Crawford, if they were to make that fight, you can't tell me that nobody would watch this fight. We would all watch it. I mean, we would all watch the fight. We all would watch this fight. Like, I don't care if you're not a Boots fan, if you, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. People going to watch this fight. And I think that Crawford knows that. But I think that Crawford believes that if he takes the fight on with Boots Ennis, that he could lose this fight. And I think that his team is telling him that. He knows that, and deep inside his heart, not saying that Crawford can't win the fight, but it's a hard fight. Very difficult fight for him to win. And I think he knows that. He's a smart businessman, and he understands, when he gets into the ring or before he gets into the ring with a fighter, he analyzes that person, and he knows what he can and can't do. First of all, I'm gonna break it down like this. Look at the pace. Look at the fighting pace when Crawford and Earl had fought. Look at that fighting pace. Look how slow. Both of them was slow. And in my opinion, if that was Ennis in there with both those guys, he could have beat both of them in the same night. Look at the pace. Look at the pace, man. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Crawford understands that because he's a fighter himself and he understands what he sees. And when you look at Ennis, if I'm a fighter and I look at that nigga, if I look at that motherfucker, I'm going to be like, you know, but don't just say that. Just say, you know, I don't think I can beat him. I don't think that, you know, I'm 36, 37. Just say it. Don't sit there and act like Boots don't bring nothing to the table, because he does. He has a title. You know what I mean? When you had one title and Arrow had 3 titles, you expected him to face you because you had one title, right? So now that Boots has 1 title, you have 3. Now all of a sudden, it doesn't make sense. But you got 3 titles, he got 1. You know what I'm saying? But you still holding on to those 3 titles at welterweight, but you still don't want to fight this guy to make yourself 3 times undisputed. What sense does that make, man? What sense does that make? I'm tired of talking about it, man. And I'm tired of seeing all these channels talk about it. I'm tired of seeing, and shout out to Fanon. Shout out to Boxing Ego. Shout out to Greg Hackett. You know what I'm saying? Robert Custer. Shout out to Mill City Boxing. Shout out to YSM Sports TV. Shout out. Love y'all. You know what I mean? Great display of putting on, boxing content and just asking questions that need to be asked. And then there's some questions that aren't asked that need to be asked. And I could ask a lot of questions that people get mad at me about, and they'll criticize me for asking these questions. Like, why? Why all of a sudden? Now, where is Crawford going to go? Where's he going to go? Tim Tszew's tied up with Keith Thurman, right? And another thing, too, the IBF has ordered Boots to fight Cody Crowley. I thought it was going to be Mario Barrios, but he's an NMWBC champion, and I think that there are people in the WBC that want him to face people to become, or whatever, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's fucked up. If you ask, it's fucked up. They'll say, oh, well, Jaron Ennis needs to fight somebody. Well, who do you want him to fight right now at welterweight if Crawford don't want to fight him? Keith Thurman's fighting Tim Tszyu at 155 for a non-title fight, right? Danny Garcia's at 154. He's supposed to fight Eris Lenny Lara. But then Eris Lenny Lara's mandatory demanded that he get the mandatory. So now Eris Lenny Lara has to acknowledge that mandatory. So now he's not fighting Danny Garcia, right? Who? Who do you want Boots to fight? Now, this is where we come to the eras of fighting. The eras. Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence. That was their era. And it's proven right there in front of you. Both them guys don't want no smoke with Jaron Ennis, right? So now we got the results of Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Spence lost in a very, very one-sided fight against Terrence Crawford. Spence lost that fight. I think that nobody really wants to see the rematch because we already know what the result's going to be in the rematch, right? That's their era. So what about Boots' era, right? When Mayweather was in his era, right, you didn't hear really nothing about Keith Thurman. You didn't hear nothing about all the guys that are supposedly the top dogs. You're not a top dog unless you have a championship title. You know what I'm saying? So just because Boots Ennis is fighting guys in the rankings that are coming up, they're not nobody. Okay? It's not his fault that the IBF is forcing him to fight someone that's in the rankings. Number 3. It's not Boots' fault that he's fighting someone or supposed to fight someone that's in the rankings of the IBF or any other sanctioning body to fight that you don't know about. It's not his fault. That's his era. Okay? Everybody that was in Terrence Crawford's era, everybody that was in Errol Spence's era, they're gone, man. Let me hear you name somebody that was in Mayweather's era. Miguel Cotto, Marquez, and all them guys. Let me hear you saying that Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence didn't fight them to make recognition on their name. They didn't get a chance to fight them because that was Mayweather's era, right? So then when Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence becomes champion, I don't hear nobody saying, well, they didn't fight Miguel Cotto. They didn't fight Marquez. They didn't fight Ricky Hatton. They didn't fight none of them guys that were in Mayweather's era to make their name known. But when it comes to Boots Ennis, he needs to make his name known to Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence's era. When we all know that them dudes in their era are not going to fight him. So let's talk about Jaron Boots Ennis' era. Let's talk about who the guys are coming up in his era. Okay? You can't blame him for not fighting guys that are in Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence's era. Are they not older than him? Boots is 26? Crawford in their 30s? How can you sit there and say he ain't fight nobody? Who's somebody? Keith Thurman? He's 35, isn't he? Keith Thurman, 35. Ain't he? So we're talking about different eras now. So this is Boots' era. So because Boots is fighting guys in his era, he's not fighting nobody, right? Make that make sense to me. Do we not have eras in boxing? Or do we just have guys that we think that, they're former champions, so, you know what I mean? How many former champions then left and then had the young generation come up and fight? You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, when Mayweather was he was a champion, he fought all the guys. You didn't hear nothing about no Crawford, or you didn't hear nothing about no fucking Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence or Keith Thurman. Them guys were coming up just the same way Boots is. They were coming up. You didn't hear nothing about them guys' names. But then when Mayweather was on his way out, then you started hearing, well, Keith Thurman's calling them out. I mean, so Mayweather didn't fight the guys coming up, right? He didn't fight them guys. So the new era after Floyd was who? Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, all of them good. That was their era, right? So now when Boots is coming up, now you expect Boots to fight a guy or somebody in their era to make him prove himself when you know for a fact that they're not going to fight him? So when you mention guys like Cody Crowley, you mention guys like in Boots' era that are coming up, they're no names. But that's his era. Am I right? That's his era. So because that's his era, you don't know him now. You don't know who they are now. You don't know who these guys are coming up in the rankings. So what's the point of having a ranking system if we're not going to use it? What's the point of having a ranking system if we're not going to use it? Answer that for me, people, please. I'm sick of this back and forth shit. We know that Crawford's not going to fight Ennis at all. So my question to Crawford is, why are you still holding on to the titles? Who do you plan on fighting at welterweight to defend your titles against? And just let Boots sit there and defend his one title. If you're not going to go for it 3 times undisputed, you know what I'm saying? You have nobody to fight. So fighting Boots is come on. Like, you know what I mean? 3-time undisputed, you don't want that? You said you wanted it, but against Boots, you don't want it. Tell me why. Why you don't want that against Boots? Why you don't want that? Is it because you might lose that fight, Crawford? Oh, yeah. Crawford might lose that fight. I think he going to lose that fight. And that's why he won't take it. Because if that was anybody else, y'all know people. Y'all know Crawford would have took the fight already. He would have been took the fight. Oh, well, man, I fought Spence, and now I'm a $20 million guy. I don't have to fight for $5 million no more. For one fight. One fucking fight. Now, all of a sudden, you this top guy. So, man, boxing's becoming fucking fucked up, bro. I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you. I don't know, man. This is just, I usually don't make videos like this, but I'm just saying, it's fucked up. Fucked up. And if I'm wrong, y'all can let me know. Leave a comment. Say whatever I gotta say. But I know I make sense. And I know what I'm saying. It makes sense to y'all. But somebody out here is gonna say something stupid in the comment. I know it. But carry on, because I'm gonna be relentless on you. Because if you respond negatively, I know you don't know shit about boxing. As simple as that. One love, YouTube. Holla at you.